Hello, everybody. Welcome to our very first Product Intelligence Think Big session. Very excited for this. I will be transparent and say that I'm a little nervous because I want this to be useful for everybody. I think we're just going to go with it. So the first question is, why are we doing this? What is the point of this thing that we're trying, this process that we're trying to create monthly? Well, something that I'm learning more and more about is when we work in silos, when product does all the validation in its own silo, and then we hand over what you need to build to dev, and we just share information in epics and issues, and we don't work as a team collaboratively from beginning to end, the product kind of suffers as a result. And so Teresa Torres is somebody that I've been reading a lot about. She's great in product. And she says that when your product trio works together from the very beginning to develop and understand a shared understanding of the customer and their needs and their pain points, we're in a position collectively to make a much better product, a product that customers love. And what do we mean by product trio? So typically, Teresa talks about the product trio being development, product, and design. But in product intelligence, we're a little bit different, right? We don't have a lot of kind of customer-facing UI features. And so I like to think about this as, rather than the design team, the quality team steps into that trio space, because the three of us working together can create something much more effective. So the point of the monthly sessions is to start earlier in the validation cycle as a team, talking about the problem, talking with our customers. And I'm going to introduce, we have some guests on our call today, some customers, and really understand the problem that we're faced with, and from their perspective, how and why it affects them. And then as a team, try to identify all of the different ways we can solve it. Really zoom out, and if there were no limitations, what are all the different ways we can attack this problem, and then zoom back in using the constraints that are available to us to determine which is the best method. So we will take the problem, we'll zoom out, then we'll zoom back in, and then the results that we come up with collectively as a team will become a technical spike and assigned to an engineer in an upcoming milestone to take the ideas that we refined and research them even more further. So before I actually dive into the problem itself, are there any questions about just kind of what is the Think Big and why are we here? Good. Okay, so why don't we go back? And I just lost my slide deck, so let me find it. I knew this would happen live. There we go. Okay, so what is the problem we're trying to solve today? And the question is, how can we decouple metrics computation, so the calculation of the metrics, from metrics collection, so that we can minimize failure of metrics collection, spread processing of metrics computation to minimize timeouts, and choose when and where we spend the compute time. I'm sure there's more benefits to doing such a thing, of separating the computation of metrics from the collection, but these are the most obvious to me. I'd like to talk about a customer use case that runs up against this problem frequently, and that is from the composition analysis group, from the secure stage. And they have a lot of database-based metrics. And an example is counts license management jobs that continually fail, they time out. And I've invited Nicole and Igor from the team to talk to us a little bit about the problems they face and to help us brainstorm on ways that we can solve this. So I'm putting you on the spot, Igor. I see Nicole's not on yet. Is there anything you want to share about this problem from a customer perspective that can help the team when we're thinking about how to solve this? Oh, Igor, you're on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I think Nicole could probably speak better about this than I, but I think the issue sort of at our team level is we just have we implement the metrics as documented and sort of expect them to work, and when they don't, we kind of don't know what to do next. And I think that's where we Nicole would come in and kind of give us a better perspective on it. I mean, this is why I think she wanted us to be on the call, is to give that perspective of can't really dive deep, and so I guess the expectation of it working is something that maybe we need to address more, like from our, like maybe we need to troubleshoot more, and what are the tools and what are the documents that allow us to do that. I think that would be the question from the side where we just do the implementation.
Yeah, and if you had a chance to watch the pre-recorded video to this session, Nicole talked about this license management job specifically. So the TLDR of what's actually happening from the GitLab and the end user perspective is users interact with this license management feature. They basically have to, I think they're like making a call to verify if the license they want to use is valid or something of this nature. I'm not an expert of this feature, but they have to interact with the feature. And the actual metric that the team is trying to instrument or count is whenever a user interacts with that feature for the first time, then the counter should be incremented. And so it's a database-based metric, and the way that it's been structured, it just continually times out. And so hopefully that gives a little bit of understanding about kind of how they use the counters that have been experiencing this problem. Any questions before we move on? Okay. All right, so what are we going to do next? So the next step basically in this session is to actually jump into the brainwriting. I should mention that there is a linked agenda in the doc, I'm sorry, in the invite. So we can add questions and action items here as we go along as well. Is there anything that you would like to address before we jump into Miro? Yeah. Okay, so the first step is, as a group, we're going to spend about 5 minutes or so. Now, these times that I've listed is just to keep me on track so I don't go over your time. But please, we can go longer or shorter on each of these steps. They're not hard rule. But we're going to spend about 5 minutes as a group using the problem statement and agree upon a desired outcome. And what does that mean? That means we have a problem to solve statement, but in the end, what do we want our solution to look like, right? So we're kind of just looking at the opposite rather than looking as a problem. We want to create a target goal of the thing that we're going to build, okay? So we're going to spend about 5 minutes thinking about that. I will document that piece on our Miro board. Then the next step is the team is just going to collectively jump into the Miro board and pick a color and start putting as many ideas as you can on the color that you choose. If we run out of colors, just let me know. I can add more. And then once that time is up, each person will kind of speak high level to what they were thinking in terms of what they wrote down. This is a no pressure situation. If you really are not sure, it's okay to just say, I'm not sure where I was going with this, but I somewhere in this direction, that's totally fine. Then we will refine and we'll take the ideas that we think are something that we might be able to work with, and we'll move them to the move forward box. And the ones that maybe need more thoughts and not quite ready or don't meet our desired outcome, we'll put them in the parking lot. We won't throw them away. They might be good for other purposes. Then the next step is to take the things that we're moving forward and determine technical opportunities. So if, for example, I don't know, if we say we can build XYZ, then this becomes the XYZ, and these are steps to get there. And then if we say we can find a solution using ABC, then this is the ABC solution and technical steps to get there. Then these two opportunities become the technical spike for the engineer in an upcoming milestone to break down and determine, which proposal is the better proposal. Okay. Does everybody have access to the board? Does anybody not have access to the board? I should just ask. Okay, perfect. All right. So would you like me to stop sharing my screen and we just look at our faces, or would you like me to keep my screen sharing? Which one's easier or better for you?
I have a question. If we can return a bit on the problem that we want to solve to make sure that I understand how we define the problem, because I'm trying to think a bit more about this, and I might see two problems, and I'm not sure if it's the same for everyone, or maybe I'm missing something. So there is the case where the metrics are timing out, which is a valid case, and we have this for multiple metrics, especially for more complex metrics in large tables. Mostly we know this is happening for GitLab.com. And the second problem that I see is that with this specific example, it is desired to count the users performing an action. So might be that there could be different way we can instrument this specific metric in order to not use the database metrics. So maybe this could be like a second problem.
What is the problem?
So
So
right
maybe
now,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right now the metric is timing out.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
Yeah.
And because I saw in one of the slides in slide 3, if you go in slide 3, how we can decouple metrics. So this sounds like it's a solution.
Yes. Yeah.
And another solution could be that we could also use a different instrumentation.
Yes.
And thinking back of the problem that we want to solve, so the metrics are timing out. What we want to do is find different solutions. One of the solutions could be decouple metrics, maybe.
Yes.
Is that, do I get this right?
100%. And
Okay.
I'm embarrassed that I did not figure that out. So this is not a problem statement. This is not a problem statement. This is a solution statement. These are the problem statements, right? So we shouldn't jump to this conclusion. We shouldn't jump to this conclusion that this is the answer. So let's reframe the problem. Right? Problem 1, metrics are timing out. Problem 2, we want to minimize failure. That's a goal. We have failures. We have failures during metrics collection, right? Then problem 3 is spread processing metric to minimize. What is the problem here?
Maybe performance. Maybe
yeah. Performance is negatively affected when we calculate metrics at the time of collection. Right? Does that sound better? That these are the 3 problems? Which we don't necessarily have to focus on all 3. We can pick one. Okay, so this is a super great point, Elena. Thank you so much for pointing that out. So the real problem is metrics are timing out. We secondarily, we have, as a result of metrics timing out, we have failures during metrics collection. And also these 2 feel secondary, don't they? To problem 1?
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
so.
So these are sub-problems of problem one. Okay, so the problem I think that we are here to solve is this one, yeah?
I would say so,
Awesome.
yeah.
That's really good.
But please, yeah, let's hear from others. I was just thinking about this while you were describing
Yep.
the situation.
Okay, so let's just get rid of this because I think that that's not accurate. What does everybody else think?
So thank you very much for diving for the details here. Because I think I shared the impression with Alina at the beginning that we have multiple different challenges tackled under one umbrella here. So probably narrowing it down to only one of those would help, because I would say that we have two aspects. So the coupling metric collection from computation as a different challenge that solves different problems than what was showcased by product use case, because this is a different thing, and probably the coupling would not solve it. It may help it, but it is very unlikely. But if we frame the problem as a metrics are timing out, and we are looking for the ideas how to make possible to collect heavy metrics, I would say, then this probably would saves us some of the confusion by trying to solve two problems with one solution.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think the decoupling is still a valid, maybe not solution, but a valid tactic. But to your point, it doesn't solve the underlying database problem, right? That the timeouts are occurring.
If you want, I can just make a quick screen share to like point
Yeah.
here and there and show what I mean by or where the problems are located, and then we can probably decide which one we want to. So this is a diagram I crafted this morning just to briefly, from very high level, sketch out how the process of service ping reporting looks like. So it's time-based triggered for each instance. Then we launch the process. First, we collect the metrics. Each of metrics is collected from the database, sometimes from the Redis, but generally it's collected from some data source. Then it's reported. The collection pipeline responds with something, and in the end, we save it. And while we are discussing the decoupling, it would mean that let's use some quick sketch that we want to somehow frame this like okay, let's move it. Okay, I hope I make it so clear that the idea is to break it into the two processes independent from each other, but these two processes doesn't really touch the problem of collection of the each metrics, and the timing out of the metrics happens here. So we can either focus on splitting this one process into two independent ones, which solves different problems, or we can narrow our focus down to this area, which is how we handle metrics collection in order to unblock the heavy metrics, which was stated in the use case.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Mikolai. I'm going to give you edit rights to, or you should, or no, I haven't given it out yet, but to the deck. Can you drop that into the deck for purposes of everybody being able to see that? Also, you know, I think let's not limit ourselves to a specific solution in that you had just suggested potentially reworking metrics collection. Alina also mentioned maybe we actually instrument that type of metric differently. That doesn't solve the metrics are timing out problem though, right? that just redirects to use a different tool. But that might be valid. You know, I think that it's perfectly valid to say, hey, for heavy metrics that are continually timing out, try this type of an implementation. So my point being is I don't know the right answer, but I don't want to limit us and narrow us into a single focus in this next step of the process. Is that fair? Okay, awesome.
Sorry, could I just add? Alina linked in the original issue for this event. She linked issue fixed service ping failing metrics for the entire secure stage. So we are just one instance, it seems, of this job failing. I'll just link this related issue. So it seems like in the stage that we have, I just put it in the document. We have a whole, every other team in our stage has a similar issue. So I'm curious whether other stages do counts, maybe they don't. And if they do counts and they don't have issues, why are theirs different than ours, right? So we're basically just doing, like you can see in the issue that I linked, static analysis jobs are failing, DAS, dynamic analysis jobs are failing, secret detection, and dependency scanning, those are all under the stage. So I'm curious why this stage is different than others. Maybe they just don't do counts at all in other stages.
So this is, thank you very much for the question, Igor. I didn't do a thorough analysis. I just briefly look onto your metric, the one which is linked in the use case. And what it appears to be that it uses CI jobs table. And from the metrics names, this is just, I'm recalling this, so maybe I'm mistaken here. It needs to be confirmed. But all of these metrics seems to work on the CI jobs table, which is the heaviest table that exists in the GitLab database. And it's bigger than all other tables by the orders of magnitude. And because of that, all the metrics that try to count on this particular table encounters heavy performance requirements, which are not the case for the most of the other tables. That's why for this particular group of metrics, they fail, even though they are correctly instrumented with the tools that are provided. It's just the sheer challenge of the volume of the data that has to be processed, rather than, like, for example, if we count nodes, let's say, have 100,000 rows, and CI jobs has 100 billions of rows. That's the difference, and that's the challenge, and probably the reason why you see the failures mostly affecting your stage and not the other stages. The other stages also use the counts, distinct counts, all the toolings that we have, but they operate on the way smaller relations. That's why they don't have this challenge as you.
Okay, what do you think about moving on? Shall we move to Miro? Okay, and we're going to take our revised problem statement from slide 4. So let me just share one more time. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to take, sorry, slide 5. Was it 5? No. Here it is, slide 3. So the problem is metrics are timing out. Now let's take this problem statement and let's create a desired outcome. Okay, so metrics are timing out. What is the desired outcome? Of whatever solution we end up implementing, what should that outcome be? You can feel free to just talk aloud on this one. I'll be the typer.
I would say that we probably are looking for some process that would guide the teams, because I like, from what Igor said, I feel like the empathy here is that his team tried to follow the documentation to the word and faced not understandable failure, because all they did was correct according to our guidance, yet the result was not delivered. So we are looking for the way to at least guide the teams truly through the way, and not point them in the wrong direction, so they feel frustrated and blocked because they don't know what to do next.
I should just update what I said. Don't I kind of mentioned it just from the perspective of the engineering on my team, not necessarily from product. So I think that the problem is still the timing out and not getting the metrics. I was kind of giving my perspective about not knowing how to fix it. So it is a problem. I would just say it's secondary. I think primary, I would say to solve the issue. I just want to make sure I'm not like giving the wrong thing or accusing you guys of doing something. It's more I was just giving the problem from my perspective on writing these. But yeah, the problem is still we can't collect them or they time out.
Yeah, don't worry, Igor. We're all safe space here. We're all working on the problem together collectively. So don't worry about offending us. Nikolai, so maybe I like how you addressed the problem as kind of a high level statement. You know, customers should be able to do their job, essentially, right? Let's bring it in just a little bit because we don't want to get into solutioning with the outcome statement, right? Should we, currently I have customers should be able to instrument database metrics which do not fail. I don't know. What do we think about that?
Maybe we should rephrase it to database, or basically service ping metrics are able to handle any scale of data. Because right now the challenge is that the service ping metrics works up to certain scale level, after which we know that they will not work.
Okay, so service ping metrics are able to handle any scale of data. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I want to add a note here because
Yep.
I think it's okay to not just focus on database metrics and say only about database metrics, because it leaves us room to explore different ways or solutions of having these metrics working, not only tie them to database.
That's perfect. That's really good. When we're thinking about the outcome, not going too siloed in any one direction is really important. I think this is a really good statement. Anybody want to make any changes or any refinement? Okay, why don't we go ahead and move on? So this is going to be our North Star. So now thinking about this outcome, service ping metrics are able to handle any scale of data. What are all of the opportunities we might have that help us get to that direction? It doesn't have to be a single solution that gets us to service ping metrics are able to handle any scale of data. All of the opportunities you can think of, right, that get us walking into that path. Go ahead and start typing here. This is going to be a silent process, but you can feel free to talk. So we're going to spend, what do we say for this step? I think it's 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay. We're going to spend 5 minutes creating as many stickies as you can. Pick a color. If we're out of colors, I will create more and just start dropping your ideas. All right. I'm officially looking at the clock and I'll stop sharing so it's not too much pressure. If anybody has a question, just let me know. For clarity, I'm not adding any ideas here because I have no idea. I feel like I should put some music in the background. We have 1 minute left. How's everybody feeling? I should mention that after the session, I will open a retro issue for feedback on how we can improve these sessions moving forward, what worked, what didn't work, ideas for making it more useful. So be thinking about those things. All right, who would like to walk through their ideas first?
Okay, I can start. And first of all, sorry, I didn't know what would be the rule of the sticker. So I think I was messing around with different stickers. So sorry for that until I realized that I should have my own column. I thought it's about colors. So sorry again. I can share some of the ideas that I have there. So right now we do have already multiple databases. This was implemented recently, but database is optimized for GitLab.com, especially for the operations that are from UI, so not for reading. So that's something that it was discussed before. So if we decide at some moment to have a separate database which can be used and optimized only for the purpose of reading the information there, that could be something. Maybe pre-aggregate the data from the large tables. So prepare the data before and have smaller sets of data where we can count and have maybe better performance. But these sort of solutions are not really scalable. So there are some ideas, but not sure if it's going to fix the entire problem that we have. Another thing that I added there is just use a different way to get the usage data. So something event-based. That's it. Who wants to go next?
I should mention real quick, opportunities that we move forward don't have to completely solve the problem. If it reduces the problem or solves part of the problem, something like that, that's also totally valid. So don't worry too much if it doesn't solve the problem. That's really great, Alina. Thank you. Okay, who wants to go next?
I can go. So first, well, I had a small doubt about the problem itself. So what exactly is timing out? Are these like requests to our backend checking some metrics? Or are they like requests that increment some metrics?
I think at this, we narrowed the focus to the reads. So it's about reading data from the storage. The use case was directly about the database storage, but we widened out to say, let's assume that we have any kind of data storage that we want to read the information from, and how to make it possible to read regardless of what kind of scale of the operation is we are running and collecting this in this data storage.
Okay. Well then my first keynote will not apply. As the second, I wrote explore DB level tools for handling big scale of data. Basically, I would consider making like a Google research on Postgres, since Postgres offers lots of different tools. Maybe there are some kinds of like operations that we didn't use but are available. Yeah, that was the idea.
Mikael, can you undo the deletion of that note? Because it's still, while it might not be directly relevant to this one, it could be a good idea to explore in a different path, and I'll put it in the parking lot. Thank you.
Okay. I just did it.
Who wants to go next?
Okay, I can have it. Basically, my two ideas revolve with the assumption in mind that operational database is not meant to provide this kind of widened overview that we are, like most of the metrics are looking for. So they are focused on trying to create the alternative that would serve our purpose. One is promote event-driven data that is low level and convey the information of the actions that are happening, and then collect the metrics or calculate the metrics from that data on the downstream systems, which would probably be either promote the snowplow at some stage or some supplementary system that would work in the similar matter, but not being a snowplow. And the other, so the second idea is to try to utilize the other or like complementary storage that is included for each of the instances. This is dedicated for the metrics collection. That way, we are both able to use more adjusted tool, and we are able to have more control over how much data we are gonna store, because we have some time bound. Our reports are somehow time bound, so probably there is opportunity to limit the data by trimming it, for example, at the end of the reporting cycle, which can prevent us from ever-growing tables.
Thank you, Nikolai. All right, who do we have left? Igor, Tarun, and Justin. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I can go next. So my ideas were similar to what were already mentioned. That is to have separate aggregate tables, which is similar to pre-aggregating the data. So instead of querying large data sets, the data should be exported into a smaller data set, which should be easier to query over. Another thing is that we can capture the inserts as events, as other people have mentioned. So instead of querying over a large range, it'll just increment a counter or something in a database or in some sort of cache, and can directly fetch the aggregate from that storage solution. The last thing would be, if we do not want to have a separate storage, we can just parallelize our calls. Instead of having a very large range, we can split it into smaller ranges and make parallel calls to each of the range, and then aggregate them. Okay. So yeah, that's it.
My idea was just, I think multiple people mentioned it, but I was just reading about the event store. There was like a recent addition that we have in the GitLab functionality, and it's just basically a pub sub model where rather than writing to the database, you write to your publisher, you write out to a stream. Right now it's Redis, but it could actually probably be backed by anything. So we don't have to think about the technology. The issue with Redis is just scale, and then have a subscriber receive it, and you could probably scale out how many subscribers, and then you can have those subscribers publish. So you can have like a topology that descends into an ultimate aggregator. And it's just something worth trying. I saw it. I was just remember seeing it in the Engineering Weekly. It's probably an easy task to do without lots of infrastructure to stand up.
Great, thanks. Hey, Justin, do you want to verbalize yours?
Sure, I can go next. So mine, I was trying to think outside of this really hard problem of using a database as a way to collect product analytics events. So this is maybe partly like will this work for products, like the product managers that care about these events, will this actually give them what they need? But the idea is to actually not use the database at all and to collect events in real time in some capacity, either from the back end, the application emitting an event to some event collector, similar to what we do with Snowplow on the front end, or just ignore the back end event and see if we can accomplish the same result via a front end event.
Igor, do you know by any chance why we didn't implement this counter, like the license management counter, using Snowplow events?
I definitely don't know that. Well, it's also, I mean, it's also a job, right? So there's no front end event for a build
There's also
running.
back end though. You can do back end Snowplow events.
Oh, yeah, that part. No, sorry, I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. All right, so quick time check. We have 15 minutes, so we're gonna move fast here. If you have proposed an idea that you already know is not valid for this specific use case, drop it in the parking lot. Feel free, if you know that somebody else's is not valid for this use case, drop it in the parking lot. Short toes here, everybody's friends. If you really like your idea and you want to explore it more, or an idea on the board, go ahead and move it to the move forward box. Are there any questions for anybody's ideas? Is there anything you want to hear more from people? Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and move anything that is writing into either parking lot or move forward. Don't be shy. And as a reminder, parking lot doesn't mean that we'll never explore this idea. Everything that's on this board, move forward and parking lot, I will create an issue for. It's a matter of if we're going to relate the issue to this problem we're trying to solve or make it its own thing that we're going to look into. What do you think, Mika? You have the last one there. Where should it go?
Yeah, well, I kind of think it might be a short-term solution. So I'm thinking about putting it to a parking lot. Yeah, let's go.
Awesome, really good work, team. That you had a lot of ideas there. You did a great job to parse them into our two buckets. Take a quick minute here, take a look at the move forward and the parking lot, and be sure that you feel good about these designations. Any changes? All right. So the next step is to get to the technical opportunities. Now, these could be similar to what our sticky notes already say, right? Or they could be a bit more high level opportunities. So unfortunately, I can't speak to these things because they're so technical. Who can maybe help me walk through how to make one of these a technical opportunity? And then remember, we're going to break it down. What would be the steps to think about this feature or change?
I think if we are looking at the ambitious high-level goal, then probably we can take Justin's suggestions as the desired state that we would wish to go, and then see how we get there. Because by looking at the refine or move forward step, it seems that there's some kind of pattern emerges from the ideas. So, and I think that Justin's is the most high level and ambitious one. So let's aim for the stars and then see how to get there.
Okay, that's a great, I didn't see that there's a pattern. So that's, I think, really interesting. We might reflect on later in our retro. Did the pattern that emerged, was it unexpected? Yeah, so maybe just think about that. All right, so if we use one opportunity as moving away, is there another opportunity that you'd like to explore? Is there a competing opportunity? If not, it's okay. But if there is, we want to capture it. Do they all point in the same direction? I just realized
If
for
you really want to
purposes.
have the second one, I would say that we kind of can merge the Talon's idea of capturing large table inserts as events with using some dedicated storage. I would myself see this as the step towards the moving to the real-time clickstream, but it can be also treated probably as the alternative, depending on the decision and the.
Okay,
view on this.
so the dedicated storage could be, and I just realized, by the way, for people watching this video, I should have been sharing this screen so they can see what we saw. Apologies to people watching the video. Okay, so this could be a competing idea from this. Is that what you're saying, Nikolai? Potentially.
Yeah.
Okay. And this capture large table inserts as events. Does that align with this one or this one?
So I think that the most of those can go to both of the directions.
I see.
Then there's the question how we get this data out of the instances, either via real-time stream or via extraction from the dedicated storage tool.
Okay. So these are our two. I'm just going to use this area. So these are our two potential things that we can look into. Are these all different ways of getting to those, basically?
All of them are similar ideas.
Similar ideas. Okay. Should we fill these in? These are different ways to get to this, right? Should we fill these in from a high level technical plan? Things to consider when investigating these ideas. So what we end up here, this is going to be the research or the spike, the technical spike that will be assigned to an engineer in an upcoming milestone. So do we want to give that engineer more context?
I would say that at least please chime in if you disagree, but I think that we can fill Igor's and Tarun's ideas for both of the technical opportunities. I would say this is the inputs. So this is the way that how we get the data in, but then the last bracket or the last research opportunity should go into how we get this data out of the instance. So how we get the real-time stream out of the instance, how we get the data out of the dedicated storage tool. But please, I'm curious what's the rest here on the call things.
Any thoughts from the rest of the team?
I have a question, Justin, maybe to be sure that I understand your idea fully, is that collecting metrics as a clickstream in real time, would this involve for self-managed in real time, sending events to somewhere in GitLab.
Like GitLab Inc. owned servers, like versions app or something. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
I think I understand your question. That's the hard part of this one, right?
Mhm.
Because if you're talking, so like let's assume a world where we abandon the aggregate metric collection via service ping as it traditionally works today, and you're collecting in real time events from clients of instance users within a VPC of that instance, and then backend events from that instance itself. You're going to need to do, I guess, honestly, you need to lots of questions. Like, do you stream that data from the instance to like versions app or some other snowplow collector or something? And is the customer okay with that? Like, are they okay with they're okay with sending big payloads of data on a weekly basis via service ping? Are they okay with sort of steady collection of much smaller payloads? Do you instead do what I think GitHub does in this regard, where you have like a sidecar application that is sitting there just doing event collection like in the customer's environment? Not the same application, but another application running in the same VPC, and then it's collecting data from the instance and then packaging that and then sending a big payload. So you don't get the clickstream events in real time and for GitLab, but you still send the full payload of that raw JSON data. Anyway, so I don't know. Yes, that's a really good question. And that's the hard part with this one, because it's a very different model of collecting data than what we typically do from customer instances today. Obviously with SaaS, it's different, right? Because we own that instance and we can do many different things with it.
Okay, thank you.
Quickly from logistics, I thought I scheduled this for an hour, but I see I scheduled it as a short meeting, so I'm sorry that we're a little bit over here. It's okay if we don't take this a step further now. Would anybody like to continue the discussion, or shall we end it here? And the next steps would be, I will open issues for these two opportunities, or actually one issue as a technical spike to research both of these opportunities, right? And to break the ideas down further. Anybody want to discuss the problem more or potential solutions more, or do you think we're okay to end here?
I have to run here in a minute, so issue works in async after that. Sounds good to me.
Perfect. And to that point, Justin, we have a number of team members that are not here, and we want their feedback. So we are going to keep this open until the end of April to receive more async feedback from the rest of the team and take this exploration further. So for folks who participated in the synchronous event, if you could also watch the conversation asynchronously and participate with the folks who are going to be participating asynchronously, that would be super helpful. All right, so next steps, I'm going to open some issues. I'm going to document what we talked about here today in the main issue, and I'm going to open a retro as well so that I can get feedback on how we can improve next month's Think Big session. Thank you everybody for your participation and for humoring me. And again, sorry folks who are watching this that I wasn't sharing my screen for the Miro maneuvers, and I should have been. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Bye-bye.